In this video, I'll be sharing everything I've uncovered about Chapter 2, Yellow Sand, Desolate Dusk, and exploring how it ties into the classic tale of Journey to the West. Unlike the straightforward cinematic in Chapter 1, the one in Chapter 2 is more obscure. As always, if you spot any inaccuracies or have additional insights, feel free to let me know, and sorry in advance for any mispronunciations. In a land of bloodshed and chaos sting, mice and rat mingle without a king. In Journey to the West, the monk Tripitaka, also known as Tanzen, faces a dire situation where he is kidnapped by the tiger Vanguard and taken to the Yellow Sage. In this world, there is a legend that eating Tripitaka's flesh grants immortality, which is why the tiger Vanguard is so intent on consuming Tripitaka's flesh. The Yellow Sage, however, intervenes and warns the tiger Vanguard against harming Tripitaka, thus sets the stage for a dramatic confrontation. Enter Sun Wukong and Zubaiju, also known as Pigsy, who are determined to rescue Tripitaka. This marks their first major challenge on the journey. Sun Wukong confronts the Yellow Wind Sage in a fierce battle, but the sage's powerful winds leave him blinded and forced to retreat. Desperate for a solution, Wukong seeks the help of Bodhisattva Lingji, the headless singer. With Lingji's aid, they manage to overcome the Yellow Wind Sage, ensuring Tripitaka's safety, and continue their quest to bring back the scriptures. King of the Flowing Sands. If you've made it through Chapter 2, you'll definitely remember this character. He was once a mighty king who ruled the magnificent kingdom of splendor. The king had 3 sons, the first prince, the second prince, and the third prince. However, everything changed when the king made the fateful decision to renounce Buddhism. As a result of his choice, he transformed his once proud kingdom into a desolate wasteland. More on this later. Kingdom of Sahali. In Chapter 2, we find ourselves in the remnants of what was once the Kingdom of Sahali. This land, located at the very edge of the world, is notorious for its harsh climate. Each day as the sun sets, it casts a scorching heat that causes the sea to boil, its relentless hiss sharp enough to harm the babies. To protect the people of Sahali from the intense heat and scorching hiss of the boiling sea, Buddha gifted them a giant drum. The people would beat this colossal drum each sunset, using its sound to counteract the harsh noise of the boiling sea. In gratitude for Buddha's gift, they erected massive statues and grand temples dedicated to worshipping and honoring Buddha for his benevolence and protection. The fall of Buddha. As the number of Buddha statues and temples in Sahali grew, so did the people's devotion to Buddha, and this led to a decline in the king's power. Desperate to reclaim his authority, the king ordered the destruction of these sacred structures. Today you can still see the remnants of these once grand temples and the shattered Buddha heads from the destroyed statues. In response to the king's actions, Bodhisattva Lingji unleashed the formidable beetle Yaoguai as punishment. The giant creature wreaked havoc, intensifying the suffering of the people and further complicating their struggles. Introducing the beetle, also known as Fuban. From what I've gathered, Fuban is a colossal beetle Yaoguai who was empowered by Bodhisattva Lingji. Drawn by the rhythmic beating of the giant drum, Fuban began to unleash chaos upon the kingdom. The people found themselves trapped in a dire predicament. If they sounded the drum to save their babies, it would only attract the beast. However, if they remained silent, the intense hiss from the boiling sea would endanger their babies. This left the people of Sahali in a desperate struggle for survival. Enter the Yellow Wind Sage. Before the events of Journey to the West, the Yellow Wind Sage faced punishment for stealing lamp oil. His penalty was to become an unwilling student of Bodhisattva Lingji. Much like how the black bear Yaoguai was disciplined by Bodhisattva Guanyin in Chapter 1, both of these Yaoguais found themselves forced into roles contrary to their will. The Yellow Wind Sage hails from Mount Lingshan and is a yellow-furred weasel or rodent with mastery over the formidable Samadhi Wind, a spell so powerful it can tear apart anyone who faces it directly. When this weasel rats, I'm not sure whether the Yellow Wind Sage is a weasel or a rat. Some cutscenes have the subtitles mentioning him as a rat, and then some in-game journal entries have him mentioned as a weasel. So I'm gonna call him the Weasel Rat. When this weasel rat sensed the immense power radiating from the giant beetle Yaoguai, he decided to step in. His motives were twofold: to assist the people of Sahali and to harness the beetle's incredible power for himself. The Yellow Wind Sage successfully intervened, curbing the beetle's rampage and exploiting its power. The grateful king recognized the sage's usefulness and honored him with the title Royal Sage, and constructed a shrine in his name. The bound beetle, a source of considerable power, ensured the sage's continued presence in the kingdom. In contrast, in-game, the Yellow Wind Sage reveals that even his Samadhi wind could not harm the beetle, suggesting that the beetle possesses a vessel that neutralizes his winds. In the past, we capture this vessel from the beetle to subdue the Yellow Wind Sage's wind in the present, significantly easing the boss fight. Just as Wukong sought Lingji's help to overcome the Yellow Wind Sage, we used the vessel likely provided to the beetle by Lingji to bring down the sage, mirroring the earlier intervention in the quest. Rise of the Rats. The Yellow Wind Sage remained in the human kingdom for a time. However, his presence was not without tension, particularly from the first and third princes, who harbored mistrust towards the Yaoguai, reflecting the general friction between humans and Yaoguais living together. Bodhisattva Lingji, displeased with the human king's devotion to the Yellow Wind Sage rather than Buddhism, issued a curse that transformed all the humans in the kingdom into rat Yaoguais. Overcome with remorse for the disaster he had unwillingly caused, the Yellow Wind Sage decided to leave the kingdom, retreating to Yellow Wind Ridge. The rat Yaoguais you encounter in Chapter 2 were once human, though not this particular once human. The drunken boar even confirms this, mentioning that he tasted the aftertaste of humans in the rats he consumed. The rat mobs capable of shooting lightning were once scholars of the kingdom. Meanwhile, the two-headed rat generals were originally born as two-headed human babies with extraordinary intelligence. The king's sons. In Black Myth Wukong, the king had 3 sons. The first prince was known for his valor and prowess in battle. The second prince, though strong, was not favored as much and was considered of simpler minds, aka he was stupid. And the third prince, who was the king's most trusted advisor. He was not only intelligent but also deeply devoted to Buddhism. So when the king issued the order banning Buddhism, the third prince opposed the decision. Despite his efforts to change the king's mind, he was ultimately unsuccessful and decided to leave the kingdom. The prince took running from his problems to a whole new level, quite literally running all the way to Chapter 3. The First Prince. The first prince, once celebrated as the brave general, found his success overshadowed by the arrival of the Yellow Wind Sage. Using the excuse that rat Yaoguais were causing trouble, the first prince petitioned for the removal of the royal sage, who was in fact the Yellow Wind Sage. On the sage's birthday, the king paid his respects with incense and prayers, but the envious first prince made a scene by overturning the incense table in public. His jealousy and spoiled behavior led to his imprisonment by the enraged king. Now keep in mind that this is during the time when the king and the princes are all human, and the first prince's journal offers a chilling glimpse into the transformation of humans into rats. One day after his meal was delayed and the cellar door was left ajar, the first prince ventured outside, only to be stunned by what he saw. The guards and officials who had once been human were now rats in robes. When the Yellow Wind Sage presented him with a bronze mirror, the reflection showed not the brave general, but an enormous fat rat. This horrifying realization drove the first prince to madness, which may shed light onto his later actions, including his shocking act of consuming his own father when summoned. The second prince. The second prince, despite his great physical strength, was simple-minded compared to his elder and younger brothers. While he lacked the warrior skills of his eldest sibling and the intelligence of the youngest, he held a unique position as the most loyal of the 3 sons. Ironically, the prince who was least favored and less capable remained by the king's side the longest, demonstrating a profound dedication and unwavering loyalty despite his shortcomings. The third prince. The third prince. Now we don't really run into the third prince until Chapter 3, so there might be a bit of spoilers for Chapter 3. After his escape, the third prince became a disciple of Bodhisattva Guoshi Wang. I hope I'm saying this correctly. Bodhisattva Guoshi Wang was renowned for his mastery in subduing Yaoguais, and the third prince sought to learn these vital skills to address the rampant Yaoguai back in his homeland. The third prince was also a frail child from birth, and he hoped that his training under Bodhisattva Guoshi Wang would cure his ailments. During his time as a disciple, he led generals Snake and Turtle along with the 4 great generals, who later became notorious as the captain bosses. Armed with the Chubai spear, the third prince and his forces were ultimately defeated and captured by Yellowbro. In a desperate bid to avoid corruption, the third prince destroyed his own sight and hearing. Despite his efforts to protect himself, he remained imprisoned within the pagoda realm. Meanwhile, his former captains, once noble generals, were corrupted and transformed into horrifying abominations. Alright, now that you're up to speed on the characters, let's explore what happened after the Yellow Wind Sage departed from the kingdom of Sahali. After departing from the kingdom, the Yellow Wind Sage made his way to Yellow Wind Ridge. There he encountered another Yaoguai, backed by Bodhisattva Lingji, named Shigandang. I hope I'm saying that correctly. I feel like I'm not, but it is what it is. Much like the beetle Yaoguai, Shigandang also carried a Buddha head and was causing trouble for the local stone Yaoguais. Determined to help, the Yellow Wind Sage once again intervened, defeating Shigandang. This time, instead of claiming the divine power for himself, the sage chose to share it with the local stone Yaoguais. This act of generosity greatly benefited the stone Yaoguai, who eventually evolved into what is known as the Mother of Stone, the Tiger family. In Chapter 2 of Black Myth Wukong, there are 3 Tiger Guais: the Old Tiger Vanguard, the Current Tiger Vanguard, and the Mad Tiger. The Old Tiger Vanguard. The Old Tiger Vanguard was a formidable figure and the right-hand man of the Yellow Wind Sage. One of his most intimidating skills was his ability to peel his own skin, either to frighten adversaries or to use it as a clever decoy to evade capture. In Journey to the West, the Old Tiger Vanguard ambushes the pilgrims and captures Tonzen, or Tripitaka, by using his decoy skin to throw off Wukong and Pigsy. Despite being warned by the Yellow Wind Sage about Wukong's formidable abilities, the Old Tiger Vanguard nonetheless challenged Wukong to a duel when Wukong returned in search of his master. After being defeated in this confrontation, the Old Tiger Vanguard tried to flee once more but ran into Pigsy. Pigsy seized the opportunity and made his mark by delivering a decisive blow, puncturing 9 holes into the old tiger's skull with his rake. The Current Tiger Vanguard. The Old Tiger Vanguard had 2 sons, the Current or the Bloody Tiger Vanguard and the Mad Tiger. The Current Tiger Vanguard was revered as a mountain deity by the local villagers, who built the Crouching Tiger Temple in his honor as a gesture of gratitude. When the Yellow Wind Sage returned, he faced a challenge from the Current Tiger Vanguard and his brother, the Mad Tiger. Despite their efforts, they were defeated. To save his younger brother's life, the Current Tiger Vanguard was forced to surrender to the Yellow Wind Sage. When the Mad Tiger regained consciousness and learned of the surrender, he fled into a well in Sandgate village. There, isolated and overwhelmed, he gradually descended into madness. The Mad Tiger. From what I've gathered, the Mad Tiger harbors deep resentment towards the Yellow Wind Sage, blaming him for his father's death and resenting the divide with his elder brother. The Current Tiger Vanguard is similarly troubled by the split, expressing his anguish by consuming his rat colleagues. Meanwhile, the Mad Tiger remains hidden in the well, where he has been biding his time with his brother's healing gourd. During his isolation, he formed an alliance with a retired warrior known as Tiger's Acolyte and the warrior's son. The Acolyte's son was suffering from the effects of the Samadhi winds caused by the Yellow Wind Sage. In exchange for curing the boy with his brother's gourd, the Mad Tiger requested that the retired warrior lure fellow villagers into the well to be consumed by him. Now, from the Yaoguai's perspective, this was not necessarily an act of evil. In the realm of Yaoguais, consuming humans is akin to a tiger hunting its prey, a natural part of their existence. However, the villagers eventually discovered the plot and killed the Acolyte's son. In retaliation, the warriors slaughtered the entire village and vanished, eventually transforming into a demon known as the Tiger Acolyte. The mad tiger, initially wary of the father and son duo for their lack of visits, later discovered the small coffin containing the deceased child. He brought it back to the well and continued to wait and sorrow, mourning the tragic turn of events involving his friends, the headless. Lingji is a bodhisattva of New Mount Sumeru who serves as the warden of the Yellow Wind Sage. As you might recall, the Yellow Wind Sage became Lingji's disciple not out of choice but because he was compelled to do so as part of his punishment. Now in the game, following Wukong's demise, his 6 senses were scattered across the realm. The Yellow Wind Sage attempted to harness the power of Wukong's relic but was thwarted by his own weakness. Seizing the opportunity, the Yellow Wind Sage managed to escape the control of Bodhisattva Lingji. Though the exact details are murky, the Yellow Wind Sage succeeded in beheading Lingji and using his head as a vessel to channel the power from Wukong's relic. The Yellow Wind Sage is essentially a pawn in the god's grand scheme to pit him against Wukong, hoping that the clash between these two powerful Yaoguais would lead to their mutual destruction. However, this situation also provided the Yellow Wind Sage with an opportunity for personal revenge against Bodhisattva Lingji. The Yellow Wind Sage's awareness of his role as a mere piece in the celestial game is evident. That's why before the boss fight, the Yellow Wind Sage acknowledges that his confrontation with us is inevitable, accepting it as part of the larger, unavoidable conflict. And now for the ending cutscene that happens at the end of chapter 2, The Scholar and the Fox. The tale of the scholar and the fox reflects a deeper allegory that parallels the Yellow Wind Sage's story. In the narrative, the fox, after being saved by the scholar, marries him and lives with him for many years. However, her true nature eventually emerges, leading her to betray him by consuming their children. This story symbolizes the inherent nature that cannot be wholly suppressed. Similarly, the Yellow Wind Sage, despite being taken in as a disciple by Bodhisattva Lingji, ultimately reveals his true nature. Despite his time as a disciple and the pretense of loyalty, he betrays his master by beheading him and seizing control of the relic's power. This betrayal mirrors the fox's inevitable return to her predatory nature, illustrating how the fundamental essence of one's being can resurface, no matter the circumstances or facade. Upon waking up from his dream, the scholar kills the fox, highlighting the complexity and duality within human nature. This act suggests that people, much like the fox, possess multifaceted aspects that can manifest in contrasting ways. In chapter 2, if you unlock the secret map level and travel back 500 years, you'll witness the Yellow Wind Demon actively working to save the villagers. This glimpse into the past offers a stark contrast to his current role as an antagonist, suggesting that he may not be entirely malevolent. This implies that the Yellow Wind Demon's nature is more nuanced than initially apparent, and it raises the possibility that Bodhisattva Lingji might not be wholly virtuous either. The complexities of these characters reflect broader themes of duality and the interplay of light and darkness within their beings. The narrative portrays a clear hierarchy. Humans, including Buddhas and gods, are seen as superior, while demons and Yaoguai, such as the Yellow Wind Demon, are considered inferior. This hierarchy underscores a fundamental bias, where those born into a higher status are deemed more valuable. Sun Wukong's rebellion against this notion reflects a deep desire to challenge and overturn these ingrained prejudices. His quest is not just a battle against individual antagonists, but a broader fight to prove that everyone, regardless of their inherent nature or origin, deserves equal recognition and respect. The ending animation of chapter 2 encapsulates the pride and arrogance of Bodhisattva Lingji and his fellow gods. It underscores the belief that humans are meant to rule over beasts, and by extension, Buddhas are meant to dominate Yaoguai. This perspective reinforces the notion that those born into lower statuses are destined to remain there, with no hope for overturning their fates. The narrator's comment, "The more you strive for perfection, the more you are likely to lose," suggests a critic of this rigid hierarchy and the dangers of striving for an unattainable ideal. It points to the inherent flaws in a system that values hierarchy and perfection over equality and unity. Ultimately, the message is clear. Whether good or evil, human or beast, we are all interconnected. And true understanding comes from recognizing our shared existence and inherent equality. And there you have it, the lore and story behind chapter 2.